10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to FPC Radio Live. It's May the 4th, folks. And the reason we started a little bit late was because Mike was telling me how much he loves today. He loves to celebrate May the 4th, Star Wars Day. In fact, you can't see it right now, but he has a whole shrine set up just to the left of him, just all dedicated to May the 4th. So if you see him today on Twitter, if you happen to interact with him, be sure to wish him a happy May the 4th, because he just loves it so very, very much. But we are here to talk about more things than other than just Star Wars. We might mention it here and there, but we have more Aaron Rodgers talk to get to, and of course John Sapochetti is going to join us here in a little bit, so I'm sure he's going to have a lot of opinion on the matter itself. But before we do, I got to bring in my co-host so he can confirm what I just said and tell me about his love for Star Wars. Mike, what's up, buddy?
La, la, la. Oh, yeah. It's just like anything else. May the 4th was a nice little concept. It was funny. It was quirky. And then it's just all over social media. It's the equivalent of a couple of years ago when, we saw all those memes with, Justin Timberlake, it's going to be May. This is even, taken to the nth degree, because this is now like a holiday almost. No, all kidding aside, I'm not a Star Wars hater by any stretch of the imagination. I love the movies, love the franchise. Anything you can do to celebrate it. I just cut it down on the memes, guys. Just a little bit less, I think, would make this day a little more palatable. But good day to celebrate one of the most successful movie franchises in history.
Meanwhile, Mike is searching his phone for more Cobra Kai and Godfather and Spaceball GIFs.
Hey! I think we can incorporate Spaceballs into this. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it.
Give it some time. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
I really think that there's a untapped market here for Spaceballs to be included in the May the 4th franchise. So give me some time, folks. I'll figure it out.
No, I'm right there with you. Like, obviously, like, I enjoy. I'm a fan. I come from the originals. Those are always and will always be my favorites. I like some of the new stuff. As most reboots and everything, it's hit or miss for me personally. I admit that I have yet to watch The Mandalorian. It's something that's on the very top of my list, so I haven't watched that yet. But when it comes to Star Wars stuff, obviously I love the franchise. I enjoy the franchise. My favorite movies, like I said, will always be the first three. And I could have worn a Star Wars shirt today, I guess. Maybe not. I didn't really prepare too much for it because I'll be honest, I didn't realize it until I woke up this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I guess today's May the 4th, Hey, whatever. It is what it is. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll start watching that sometime soon in honor of May the 4th, or I won't, and I'll just repeat the same stuff next year when inevitably we're on the air. So this time next year, though, as we talked about the other day, could be Aaron Rodgers on a new team or no team at all. There's a couple possibilities. And like I said, we're going to talk to John Sapochetti here in just a little bit. But, Mike, I did want to bring something up, though, before, obviously, we get to John, and that is Ernie Adams. Yeah. Obviously, anyone in New England knows the name Ernie Adams. If you don't, he is the guy behind the guy. He is Bill Belichick's right-hand man, as they say. He's kind of a mysterious figure, and he has been for quite some time. But all the stories about him pretty much sum up that he's a football genius of sorts. And he said this past draft was his last with the team, as he's heading off into retirement after 21 years with the team, and a very successful 21 years. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Without question. Anybody that is familiar with Patriots folklore is going to be familiar with the name Ernie Adams. Now, it's funny that you mentioned Ernie being this mythical figure. For a while, there was some that questioned whether or not he was even in existence. Folks, I'm only kidding. That's really an exaggeration. But Ernie is just someone that's always been around. He's always been a part of football operations as long as Bill Belichick has been here. And I think in a lot of ways, this is a big loss for the New England Patriots. His personnel, the ability that he brings to the table when it comes to evaluating talent, really being able to scout, and also being able to evaluate talent when it comes to the NFL draft is something that is just irreplaceable in a lot of ways. And don't get me wrong, folks, Bill Belichick is still very much in the driver's seat as long as he's here. That element remains, but it's yet another piece of the early Patriots dynasty, the middle part of the Patriots dynasty, that is now going. And, you mentioned, guys, well, maybe not, but mentioned guys like Dante Scarnecchia moving on, retiring. It's a little bit of old guard now, kind of relinquishing to new people coming in. It's interesting now that Matt Patricia holds the title of assistant to the head coach. I don't know if you saw that over the weekend, but that is Matt Patricia's new official title with the team.
To the head coach.
Assistant to the first thing that I thought of, and me and my demented Seinfeld brain, was assistant to the traveling secretary, George Costanza. He also applied for the title.
Holiday Inn.
Yeah, exactly. You guys booked us a Holiday Inn in Milwaukee. But no, all kidding aside. And then he applied for the assistant to the general manager. So George Costanza's got a thing for assistants in his title. But in any case, Ernie Adams' loss will be felt by the New England Patriots, especially from a scouting perspective. But they brought in Rothstein. Now they have Groh, and then they've got guys that can fill those positions and will be very capable of doing so. You saw a huge presence, a huge contingent at a lot of pro days this year for the Patriots. Bill Belichick allowing them to go kind of on their own and be able to scout some of these players. They'll be okay, but congratulations to Ernie on a great career. He's earned his retirement. He will go into it and definitely enjoy it. And I wish him nothing but the best.
I'm realizing watching this on camera, I got to stop showering not like stop showering, like still shower, but stop showering right before we get on the air, because I always have that Wolf the Dentist Stanton look going on with the slick back hair, and that's not really the problem, although it does kind of look a little, I don't know, kind of ridiculous, but but
you
the problem
actually see me do this.
Yeah, exactly. I can see you mocking me now, as opposed to not being able to see me before. And now everyone else is.
Yeah, the voices are real. They're not pre-taped. I do this right. I do this live.
Good, perfect. I'm actually glad I can see that. But no, the problem is,
well, COVID did give me like the Godfather jowls, folks. I mean, unfortunately, they won't be there for long. But they're still. I'm going to enjoy them while I can. I actually don't have to stuff the cotton anymore. It's just that. So.
I love self-deprecating humor. But yeah, just a little bit. But the worst part is, though, when I take these headphones out, I have like a permanent little dip in the top of my head that I can't get out. I just can't get it out unless I like wash my hair.
Badge of honor for a broadcaster, buddy.
Yeah.
Remember that.
The worst is when you don't realize it and you walk out and people are like looking at you as like, a style. Is that called like a valley or something like that? Like you comb in like a valley on the top.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly. But, tell them it's a new style.
I think about it every single day we get on here, and I'm like, I gotta stop doing this, because, like I said, you can already see it forming.
That's good.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, so these are the things that run through my head while you're going on your long talks that I'm sure are very informative. But me, my attention span. No, I'm joking. I listen to every word of it.
You missed my ode to Ernie Adams. It's unbelievable.
Going to get, because this story just isn't going to go away, and it's something that it kind of, and we're going to talk to John here. We're getting John on the phone here now in a minute, but it's something that last Tuesday or last Wednesday, whenever it is that we spoke to John, this wasn't even a deal. This wasn't even a thing. This was all it was a pipe dream of John's. It was John's going to go to bed, John's going to fall asleep, and he's going to just hope and pray that Aaron Rodgers is going to play for the Patriots somehow. And there was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll see. Him moving on, that's not that crazy of an idea. But all of a sudden, over the course of what's felt like about 20 minutes, this whole concept, this whole idea of him being traded, moved on from, and potentially it happening very soon, just kind of materialized. And since then, there's been nothing really to put out the fire, so to speak. I don't think the draft really changed much. We said it yesterday. If he wants to go to another team, well, what's a better situation for him? I don't really know. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So let's bring him in now, assuming he's ready and willing to jump in on Aaron Rodgers with us. John, what's up, buddy?
Good morning. I'm at Stapleton Airport in Denver right now, awaiting Aaron Rodgers' arrival in about 4 weeks.
Gotcha.
First week of June, he will be a member of the Denver Broncos, and he'll be in the AFC West, which probably would be the best division to compete in with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and John Gruden. But look, I called this a year ago, the day after the first round draft, after Green Bay had traded up from 30 to 26 to take Jordan Love, that Aaron Rodgers' days were numbered in Green Bay, whether it was going to be the organization's choice or his choice. He had an MVP season, got to the NFC Championship game. And since I think that the Packers ruined his draft night in 2020, he was ready to ruin their draft night in 2021. Says a lot about Aaron Rodgers, whether you like him or not, that, he has the to, drop this story, or at least Adam Schefter dropped the story, but supposedly had it for a while, that it got dropped the afternoon of the first round in the NFL draft, which I'm sure the NFL was not pleased with, because that's a big night for the NFL. You're bringing all these new great young players, and you want it to be their night. All we could talk about was Aaron Rodgers demanding a trade. Look, he's not going to play with Green Bay next year. I'm 100% sure that he's going to be playing elsewhere because he thinks they did him dirty. And it's unfortunate, because I think his best chance to win a Super Bowl, with another Super Bowl, is in Green Bay. I think the AFC is stronger than the NFC. His division isn't that strong. I think if he's back at quarterback, the Packers waltz to another division championship. And really, the only team that appears better than the Packers right now in the NFC is Tampa Bay, which they lost to twice last year. The AFC is loaded right now with all these great young quarterbacks, Kansas City and Buffalo. I think Cleveland is loaded, Indianapolis. It's a strong conference. So it would appear he's gone, and it would appear that they're going to trade him to the AFC. It's a matter of which team in the AFC and what that team has to give back to Green Bay to get Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Terry Bradshaw had some pretty interesting words, and we all know Terry Bradshaw is not he's not afraid to kind of speak his mind. In a way, I kind of look at him as sort of like the Charles Barkley of the NFL, in terms of just kind of some of the things he says is a little, you have to think about, but like, all right, well, maybe there's some validity to it. It's not all the way there, but he kind of criticized Aaron Rodgers for this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's necessarily far off, because you said what's a better situation for him? Well, I don't think there is one. So like, and this idea that, and it's not Aaron Rodgers necessarily putting this out there, although again, his going along, going along with it adds credence to it. But this whole narrative that the Packers have done Rodgers wrong, I just think it's kind of absurd. I mean, we're getting to the point now where it's like, people are making it seem like they physically held him back from doing the things that he does well. You know what I mean? Like they purposely sabotage, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, people were complaining about the first round pick the other night, and it's like, well, I mean, you just spent the whole last 3-4 months complaining about defense. They need to get better on defense. And it's like, you want to talk,
they did.
Yeah. And it's like, they add, and real quick, they talk about, he hasn't thrown to a first round, or Green Bay hasn't drafted a first round wide receiver. And I brought this up to Mike yesterday. I'm like, Tom Brady spent 19 years in New England. They're the one first round wide receiver they drafted, N'Keal Harry, like the very last year he was there. So, stop playing that up like it's like a huge deal, because like at the end of the day, like they had 3 all pros on offense, including him, but Devontae Adams, David Bakhtiari. They had a really good running back in Aaron Jones, and of course a tight end who caught over 10 touchdowns. So there isn't. Is it the best wide receiving core in the NFL? Maybe not, but it's probably top 5, right? So, I mean,
because he's the guy throwing the football.
Well,
I think
yes and no.
That does have an impact.
Devontae Adams would be great no matter where he was. You know what I'm saying? Like he may have been a second round pick, but he's a quote unquote first round talent and arguably one of the best in the league. So, yes and no to that, because it's kind of like the same. We mentioned it before on the show. You look back and in hindsight, you look at that 2019 Patriots team, and what was once a poor, bad season from Tom Brady, in hindsight, looks like a pretty remarkable feat considering who was out there and kind of what you got the following season with some changes, but not many. So yeah, it's certainly an impact, and Aaron Rodgers definitely makes all those guys better.
Right.
But the
thing is, if you look at the two great quarterbacks that Green Bay's had over the last 30 years, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and have they underachieved? Yeah, I think team-wise they have underachieved. They each won a Super Bowl. Favre went to another Super Bowl. But if you look at the raw numbers, since Vince Lombardi, I'm going to go way back here. Vince Lombardi retired after the 1967 season. So it's been 53 seasons since Lombardi was on the sideline for the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have gone to the playoffs 22 times, 11 times with Brett Favre at quarterback, 10 times with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and 1 time with every other quarterback that they've made the playoffs. During that time, they've won 63% of their games with Brett Favre at quarterback, 67% of their games with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Every other quarterback, 41% of the time. That's not necessarily a well-run organization. That's an organization that was fortunate to get 2 all-time great quarterbacks who carried them not quite as far as we expected them to. Favre probably should have won another Super Bowl. I think Rodgers should have won the Super Bowl last year. He had every opportunity to beat Tampa Bay. I think a lot of that game is on him. He missed 3 or 4 throws that he normally makes. And if he makes, they probably win that game. So I'm not taking him out of the equation in the blame game pie without question. And look, they drafted a cornerback in the first round, which they needed. We all saw the NFC Championship game, and Tom Brady abused Kevin King at cornerback multiple times. So I think he's, at this point, the old expression, cut off your nose to spite your face. He wants to prove a point that he doesn't need Green Bay, and then he's going to get back at them. And then, if he's with the Denver Broncos, playing Mahomes twice a year, a really talented Chargers team twice a year, a loaded conference, and he doesn't make the playoffs, then what exactly have you accomplished? As far as your legacy is concerned, because that's what he's playing for, or at least people that support him think he's playing for. Maybe he's not. Maybe he just wants to be happy somewhere on the West Coast so he can be close to doing 46 days a year on Jeopardy or being with his fiance. Who knows what he thinks, because he is kind of a unique guy. He's not wired the same way Tom Brady is. They're different. So it's going to be interesting to see. I just don't see him coming back. I think the damage has been done. And Green Bay is not the organization that's going to fire the general manager to save the quarterback. They're not run that way. They don't have an owner, which is a blessing, but also a really tough thing to deal with. Mark Murphy runs the Packers, but he's not invested financially. If you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, then if this situation occurred, Aaron Rodgers goes down the hall and talks to Jerry Jones and it gets straightened out. But in Green Bay, it's totally different. And that's an organization that is set in their ways. It's old school. And I think if there's a choice, that the Packers will stick with Brian Gutekunst over Aaron Rodgers. That's just the way they rolled it.
Well, that honestly, and I kind of alluded to, and I'll let Mike go here, but you touched on a couple things I wanted to mention. That's what I kind of alluded to yesterday when we talked about it. It's like, look, if I'm the Packers, this isn't a situation that's, is Aaron Rodgers a great quarterback? Absolutely. But I don't think he has that cachet that, say, even a guy like Brady had with New England. So, like, if Brady were to leave prior to when he did, I think after 20 years, I think most reasonable people realize, okay, you give us 20 years. I think that's okay.
Right.
If Aaron Rodgers leaves the Packers, you're going to have the fans that are going to miss him. But I don't think that there's that just a diehard blind allegiance to him as if there were to Patriots fans and Tom Brady. And that caused a lot of rift because, that blind allegiance also goes both ways. So when he leaves, all of a sudden you feel dejected and betrayed and all that. And then that's how you get all these people, wishing, that he sucks, even though in the back of their mind, they've realized they're going to be wrong. But, and in this case, I don't see that because I still imagine there's a split among Packers fans about when you ask Patriots fans, who's the best quarterback in Patriots? Easily Tom Brady, by far.
Right.
I mean, he does laps around the competition. That's no disrespect to, a guy like Drew Bledsoe or anyone in the past. But, when you talk about the Packers, you're like, oh, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, and then, of course, you go even further back. But, let's keep it contemporary here. But, just those two in general have, maybe the two recent generations split, and that's really enough. I think everyone realizes Bart Starr is a great quarterback, and you still have his loyalists of the older crowd. But three great quarterbacks, and you can make a case for all three of them about who was
without
better.
question,
yeah. So
yeah.
But again, I think if Aaron Rodgers moves on, I don't think it's going to be. I think that's just, honestly at this point, I think it's a smart thing for Green Bay because I think he's already kind of burned a bridge. I know in some cases you can go back in and mend fences and all that, but the reality of it is you're mending a fence for a guy who's going to play maybe 2 years, 3. Because Mike and I were talking about it yesterday. I don't see him, people say, oh yeah, he can play well into his 40s. Well, I don't think he wants to, he may, what I mean? He may not say he won't, but I don't think he's, going to be a guy who's going to play till he's 41, 42, 43. So if you're Green Bay, you're like, look, it's been a nice run. Maybe we've underachieved, or maybe this is just who Aaron Rodgers is. He's a one-time Super Bowl champion, and there's nothing wrong with it. But a lot can be said. If he moves on, he goes somewhere else, he wins a Super Bowl, or he, like you said, John, goes and fails miserably. I mean, here's the thing. Last year we were talking about quote unquote Tom Brady's legacy, and I felt that there was really little room for it to go down at all. I mean, literally, you would have to really grasp at straws to convince people that his legacy somehow didn't improve or went backwards based on anything that happened prior to the season. I thought it could only be enhanced just as it could be enhanced any year by more Super Bowls, and that's exactly what we got from him. I think Aaron Rodgers' quote unquote legacy has a lot more riding on it if he were to go to a different team. Because if he went to a different team and they didn't make the playoffs or its same sort of failure, say they get to the AFC Championship game and his team gets several interceptions and he has a subpar performance, again, all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe it wasn't the Packers. Maybe, that's just Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but what happens with the Packers is also important to his legacy. If the Packers go 7-10 next year without Aaron Rodgers, and he goes to Denver, they make the playoffs, and they have a nice run, and so in the Packers versus Rodgers debate, year one would go to Rodgers, just like in year one it was a TKO by Tom Brady over the New England Patriots. I mean, anybody that thinks differently wasn't watching what we saw. I mean, it's kind of a seesaw. To give the credit that Brady richly deserved in changing the culture in Tampa Bay, it also, was a mark against the Patriots that they couldn't survive without him. Well,
I think it's less that was less of an actual debate though, because of just the history of the two.
Right.
Like I said, in this case, with it being only A, the one championship for Rodgers, and B, like you laid out, the hit or miss success of the franchise, I think there's more value to it. Like this whole Brady versus Belichick thing, I think was kind of silly because it's like you're talking about two people that have between them now 15 Super Bowl rings. It's kind of silly to sit there and base make a definitive opinion off of 1 year. Although, again, I mean, you know me, I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, and the more he wins, the greater it is from him. I just don't think it necessarily makes it.
How many Super Bowl rings does George Seifert have? I just want to go off the subject for a moment.
What does he have, 2?
He's got 5 because he was the defensive coordinator on 3 of the San Francisco 49ers teams. I love the fact that Belichick is the only assistant coach in the history of football that gets credit, for Super Bowl championships. He had great defenses. He had great players. And again, I'm old enough to have remembered the win over the Buffalo Bills. You remember who the MVP of that Super Bowl was?
Well, it wasn't Bill Belichick.
Well, no, it
was the game plan.
Well, the game plan was that they had the ball for 40 minutes and they ran the ball down the Buffalo Bills' throat. I mean, Ron Earhart, who was the offensive coordinator, deserves a lot of credit for that win as well. O.J. Anderson was the MVP of that game. Ran for, I think, 157 yards. My point being that Belichick's great. Let's not diminish that, but let's also not just give him credit for 2 Super Bowls. The Giants were loaded on both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
they had a great head coach.
That wasn't necessarily my intention. Just pointing out that
no,
those
not you,
Super Bowl
everybody
rings.
brings that up. I still got Brady 7, Belichick 6. How's that?
Yeah, well, exactly. No, I like I said, I look at it and I don't see necessarily any sort of them versus. I think it's just a figment of media's imagination. This whole.
But it's fun though. I mean, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Oh no, God,
to some extent.
If people are pushing back on Aaron Rodgers is giving us gold. Don't we root for the story? I'm not the general manager of the Packers or the commissioner in the NFL. I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers supporter.
Oh, of course.
And I find this fascinating. I mean, I find last year fascinating what Tom Brady did and what he accomplished. The whole LeBron Michael Jordan debate. Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting, but it's kind of fun. And look, the 2 big debates of the last 20 plus years are LeBron, Michael Jordan, Brady, Belichick. Pick a side and go at it. It's just fun. I mean, it is entertainment at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to each his own, because I don't necessarily find that too entertaining. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird like that. I do like the Rodgers stuff because I think there is a little bit more teeth to it. I think that the Brady stuff had a little bit more imagination running wild when it comes to connecting dots, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like people saw these connections that weren't necessarily there, but just ran with it, and it creates this whole thing. Whereas, like, again, because people right away were like, oh, this is just like, I mean, so many people, this is just like Jimmy G and Brady and Rodgers and Love. I'm like, no, there's nothing similar to this whole situation, except for the fact there's 2 quarterbacks involved. And the reason I said that, well, because Brady didn't go and request a trade and make this very public. No, I want to say very public. Let me rephrase that. He hasn't done anything to put out the fire, Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? He's certainly enjoying this. He played off the I wish it hadn't come out. No, you wanted it to come out. It was very very non-coincidental that it came out when it did. But at the end of the day, the 2 situations aren't similar at all. Brady used it as a way to motivate himself, and they ended up going on and winning Super Bowls, and his play ended up getting Jimmy G traded. Rodgers, is a little bit more abrasive towards it. He doesn't seem to, again, I'm not making a judgment on his character, but I think this is part of the differences, the subtle little differences you're going to get out of these 2. They're wired differently. Although it's been 1 year since they drafted Jordan Love, and the guy won the MVP. Now, he didn't win the Super Bowl. Could have played better in the NFC Championship game. I give you all that. But, I mean, he also had a bounce-back year. His last 2 years before the MVP season were good, not great. Again, he doesn't turn the ball over. That's been one of his strengths through his entire career. But, he did have an MVP season. Mm-hmm. I just think that he was more comfortable in that offense, and that's a really quarterback-friendly offense. And, look, they have a good roster, Green Bay. I'm not diminishing what they have on both sides of the ball. Again, I think that's the best place for him to win another championship. But to start off with, his division is weak. Mm-hmm. The conference is inferior to the AFC. And you got to figure out a way to beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because as we sit here today, if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Packers and he's invested, you're probably looking at a repeat of the NFC Championship game. So, you got to find a way to beat Brady and Tampa Bay. Goes to the AFC. The AFC is loaded. I was going to say, maybe that's how he looks at it. I know everyone's going to get up there on camera and say, oh, well, of course we can win. But maybe deep down in the back of his mind, he's like, where we're beating Tampa Bay. No way. And getting to just another championship game does nothing for Aaron Rodgers. Does nothing.
No, he's done that enough. Yeah, he's already been to enough of those. Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's like, he's been to a lot, and it hasn't necessarily been his best playoff round. No. And that's where for me personally, I'm gonna let Mike. I know he's sitting there, just I can see him getting like hulked up over there. I'm gonna let him go here in a second. And that I think is ultimately where, I kind of mentioned it just a moment ago. Have they underachieved? Maybe. Sure. No doubt. I'm not going to sit there and say no if someone's going to make that argument, but I would also ask this. I'm like, maybe they haven't. Because again, we talk about how, getting to just one Super Bowl, that's an indictment obviously on the team, but it's not as much on the quarterback. And I disagree because, there's two situations I can think of specifically where there were opportunities to be had. And someone mentioned this during the draft, and this is what made me think of it. Someone said, they needed to draft defense to get, more turnovers. And I'm thinking like, well, wait a minute. The last two NFC championship games, I'm sorry. No, you'll have to remind me about the one against San Francisco. But two of the last three NFC championship games, the 2006 or 2000. All right, now I'm really confusing my dates. Whatever.
I'll set you up. 2014, they picked off Russell Wilson 4 times and still lost. And then the last NFC championship game, they picked off Tom Brady 3 times and still lost. Yeah, that's a bad look for Aaron Rodgers. Absolutely. Yeah. He played, I think he played a solid game against Tampa. Could have been better. Should have been better. Seattle was a disaster.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he still had a solid game. I mean, they scored 26 points. Again, I say this, it seems like every time I'm on with you guys, 3 or 4 throws that he normally connects on that he didn't. Then that's on him. That's not on anybody else.
And that's the biggest difference. And that right there is the biggest difference. And really, when you think about it, you add another Super Bowl or appearance or two, the talk about his legacy is completely different today than it is yesterday. It is now.
Even one more Super Bowl, because the way I have the quarterbacks ranked since the Super Bowl era, I mean, I'm not going to start weighing in on Johnny Unitas and Otto Graham. Brady's number 1 in a class by himself. I put Montana number 2 in a class by himself. And then I have Manning and Elway. And partly the reason I have them above Rodgers is because they do have 2 Super Bowl wins. And talk about a guy with a less than sterling supporting cast. I mean, John Elway with the 3 Super Bowls with, pretty average rosters. Now, once he got to the Super Bowl, he got destroyed by pretty much all-time great teams, right? The Giants in 86, the Redskins in 87, and the 49ers in 89. He had no chance in those games. Those teams were loaded. When he finally had a decent defense in the running game, he won 2 Super Bowls. So, Elway and Manning I have up there. I have Rodgers 5th, kind of at the next level, at the top of the next level, with the likes of Brett Favre and Dan Marino. And, I'm not even going to put Drew Brees in there. He's a little lower than that. I mean, Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw, yes, but they played on phenomenal teams, and they won 6 Super Bowls between them. So that's how I kind of rank them. If Rodgers gets that 2nd Super Bowl, then he's in the same tier with Manning and Elway. Below Brady, below Montana. In that next tier. That's pretty great. Considering the history of football, or at least the last 50 years in the Super Bowl era.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Then don't.
Mike tells me that every day. And I'm going to let him say it for himself here in a minute. I swear. We have 10 minutes. He's going to get his just time. I don't necessarily disagree, but I also don't agree that he would. I'll kind of nip this in the butt because we can save this quarterback tier ranking for another time. But I think there's more he has to do than just go to another Super Bowl to get him into that Peyton Manning.
I said win one. If he wins one, then those 3 quarterbacks will have 2.
Okay, yeah. All right. I can buy that a little bit more, but still, I think there will be a discussion because I think we do vary a little bit where we rank him, but I think it's close enough that you're not gonna. If we disagree, it's on some stupid stupidly small, and it's
Yeah,
not,
so
no point in
it's
disagreeing.
right. It's him.
Yeah.
It's him. Favre, Marino. I mean, the one difference between Marino and Rodgers does have a Super Bowl. Marino doesn't. And Rodgers has 3 MVPs. Marino has 1. I know a lot of people get turned off by MVP talk, but in that given year, you were voted the most valuable player in the league. It means something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, he's in that group with those guys: Favre, Marino, Steve Young.
Yeah.
Staubach, Bradshaw, or whoever. Pick all those great quarterbacks to get to the same level as Manning and Elway. He does have to win a second Super Bowl. Absolutely.
No, yeah, for sure. And Mike, it's your time to shine. I've been talking for 20 minutes straight now, and
Good morning, John.
Mike, how are you?
With you, my friend.
I told you, Mike loves it. I told you he can't get enough.
You gotta get it in there.
And
John,
tomorrow's Cinco de Mayo, so we've got back-to-back big days.
See, there you go. That's it. That's right. Celebrations all over the place this week, John.
I got a 1 o'clock tea time tomorrow to celebrate.
Yes. Bottom line, the question I think on everybody's mind when it comes to this is we're all in agreement that Rodgers has likely played his last snap in Green Bay, but the question is, where does he end up? I mean, everybody is assuming he's going to end up in Denver, but there are other suitors out there. We've heard the Raiders as a possibility. Our good friend, the Countess of Claus herself, Claire Cooper, yesterday messaged me and mentioned Houston as a possibility. And I don't think that's necessarily that far off base. They could be in the market for a quarterback without any question. And
they have the assets, though.
That's the question. Do they have the assets to give, Green Bay what they need? But where do you think he might end up, just in case it's not Denver? Where do you think would be a logical landing spot for Aaron Rodgers if they can't work something out with the Broncos?
Well, we're going to have to set aside the NFC teams because I don't think Green Bay wants to trade into the NFC. Although you shouldn't be fearful of that because whatever package nets you the most assets, that's what you should do as an organization. I would have loved to see him in San Francisco if that happened before the draft. We've heard New Orleans and the Giants are also potential suitors for Aaron Rodgers. But let's go to the AFC. If it's not Denver, the Raiders would sure as hell be interesting with him and Gruden. I don't know if there's enough air in the room for the two of those guys. Would be interesting. But let me throw one team in that I would actually like to see him go to. It's not a sexy spot in terms of where it's located in the country or the weather. The Cleveland Browns are loaded. I look at their roster, and I think they have a real chance to get to the Super Bowl. Now, if you go from Baker Mayfield to Aaron Rodgers, you become co-favorites in the AFC with the Kansas City Chiefs. That would be a spectacular place for him to go. They have assets, again, future first-round picks, whatever type of talent that they would have to send back. But could you picture Rodgers throwing to OBJ, Jarvis Landry, those two running backs coming out of the backfield, a great offensive line, and now a totally upgraded defense? I think Cleveland would be the perfect spot. But does Aaron Rodgers want to go from Green Bay to Cleveland? It still feels like he wants to go west. As far west as he can. If they had a team in Hawaii, he'd probably want to play there. Unfortunately, the two LA teams are out. The Rams did show interest right after the NFC Championship game. They called to inquire about Rodgers. If he had gone to the Rams, that would be a spectacular move. But I think Cleveland is the place I'm rooting for. But in the end, I do think it's going to be Denver. It does make a lot of sense. Elway can't draft quarterbacks, so in the end, he just goes out and gets legendary quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, and then it would be Aaron Rodgers. It's almost like you're trying to cast a movie with some unknown actress, and in the end, you go, you know what? Let's just go get Meryl Streep to get this right.
We have a Meryl Streep reference. We had a LeBron reference. I think we hit all the boxes. We checked all the boxes, John. All your go-tos in one.
Yeah, Roger Federer. Did we get Roger Federer in there?
Now
Mario
we do.
Lemieux,
Now we did.
Right? Barry Bonds. Then we're all set.
Okay, good. We get all of them. There's always
our favorite, Daniel Day-Lewis. We got to mention him.
Of course. Well, hey, you're just lucky. There's a lot of Aaron Rodgers talk because if not, we might have to. we might have to had a discussion about LeBron's hypocrisy when it comes to this play-in tournament. But unfortunately, we're running out of time here, so we're not.
We got plenty of time. The rest of the week, if you need me, I got to defend my guy. Actually, I'm gonna I'm
Of
going to
course.
not defend him. I'm not going to defend him because I think, LeBron at times, LeBron seems like the cranky old guy at this point, and I can explain why, but we'll do that some other time.
Oh, see, it's a nice little teaser for later in the week. Remember, the NFL draft is over, so we've hit NFL offseason doldrums. So prepare, folks, for months and months of just randomness and maybe more May the 4th celebrations if Mike continues to pester me about it. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We always wish these lasted a little bit longer. I know Mike does because, he certainly doesn't get in everything he wants to say because I'm constantly talking the whole time. I promise next time we will get him in. If not, he can just sit up there on camera and make faces and entertain the crowd that way. Until then, though, we will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. May or may not be drunk. Just throwing it out there. I know, maybe we hit the bottle a little bit early, celebrate.
You do realize we record this show at 9 a.m., right?
Oh, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? That's what they say,
The audio show.
Hey, you know what? 9 o'clock, it's just a number, okay? 9 a.m., that's just a matter of perspective. Maybe that's my 5 o'clock, and, that's what I'll stick with. But
not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, exactly. Not that there's anything wrong with that. No, but we will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m.-ish. You know how it works. You know how it works around here at FPC Radio Live. In the meantime, give us a follow on Twitter at FPC Radio Live, at Full Press Radio. I am at IGLEN31, and Mike is at, of course, MD ABATE FPC. And either of you want to take a bet with me? I bet you Dustin Hoffman was in Star Wars. Does anyone want to take that bet? No? Okay, folks. Have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.